A very, very good morning to you as we come to you live from the CSIR, and this is the International Convention Centre. We've stepped outside to a very, very chilly Pretoria, I have to tell you. When it's cold here, you know that the rest of the country and Johannesburg is pretty cold. But it really has been an interesting morning of just chatting to people behind the scenes. This only starts a little bit later, and of course we'll bring you the Minister's address live, but just about technological innovation within the continent and within South Africa, and how we are stacking up to the rest of the world and how are we doing. Technology is not a maybe. Technology is a must. If you do not have access to technology, you are going to be left behind. The days are now over where we are talking about technology. We are living technology, and technology is taking over, and we need to jump onto the ride with them. And that's the message that we're getting loudly and clearly here. But I want to talk to our next guest here, who is really somebody who's at the forefront of all of these kind of things. Marius Engelbrecht, who's from Huawei, Senior Strategy Consultant for the Southern African region. You know, Marius, when I say if we don't jump onto technology's bandwidth now, we are finished. We are going to be left so far behind, and I'm scared to imagine what it'll look like. How fast is technology moving, and are we moving with it?
Technology is moving at a phenomenal rate. We've seen that over the years with our experiences. Remember, with Huawei as a company, we've got representation in 170 countries globally. We've got a staff component of more than 200,000 people, but of which 52% are R&D engineers. So we see, and we can see exactly how the impact is on economies, on people's livelihoods. China within itself is an early adopter of technologies, and they will simply look at anything and everything, unpack it, break it down, and look at ways, how can we make it more efficient? Yeah. How can we look at the cost component, especially looking at the African continent? We've had presence on the African continent now for more than 20 years. I've been privileged to travel into Africa for more than 15 years, supporting regulators, operators, and governments. You know, I always say my role is simply to come alongside and to guide and to educate and equip the people that ultimately make those important decisions that have to ensure that the technology gets into the people's hands and that businesses can access it as easy and as cost effective as possible. You know, the benefits. Sometimes we look at technology and we look at the development as something that is quite frightening and scary and may make a lot of professions redundant, which is real. I mean, I'm sitting here standing thinking, I've got my phone in my hand at the moment, and I'm remembering the days of making a phone call when you'd have to phone the operator, and then they'd say, "No, and then you'd give them the number, and then they would call it for you. Then they would connect you to the phone call, and hopefully that person was home. Now, are you kidding me? I'm holding this device in my hand that literally can change my life and the world without even thinking about it. And the thing is that's how technology moves, but it is there and designed to make things easier, more accessible, and cheaper at the end of the day. Absolutely. Are we doing enough, though? Because you see the difference between traveling between China and Africa. Where are we on this chain? We have to be realistic, and we have to recognize that inherently Africa has got these massive challenges, right? But we've seen over the years how we were able to address those challenges. So again, having the presence on the continent, being in the trenches and building the networks, we can apply innovative solutions. So for an example, we saw that rural connectivity was a very big challenge in Africa. So we developed, as Huawei, a technology that we refer to as the Rural Star, which ultimately allows us to take a cellular tower, and put it in a village where there's no power and no infrastructure. We power it by solar mechanisms and lithium batteries, and we backhaul with either LTE or other spectrum mechanisms. And all of a sudden that village can start to thrive, and they can connect. And those people that were not part of the economy all of a sudden becomes part of what we call to the future the digital economy. All right. But there's also a component that we need to be very important on in terms of skilling them correctly. All right. So we go in there, we partner with the operators, we make sure that the people understand what the technology allows them to do and how they can use it effectively. And within a couple of months, you will see a total different ecosystem. Because now all of a sudden, one of the things that I do as example, when I travel into Africa and I speak to the cab drivers, usually from the airport to the hotel, I would ask them, how has technology impacted their life? And one of the things that we forget about is mobile money. I remember one guy with tears in his eyes telling me that he had to take leave and travel 2 days to get to his village to take money to his money to his mother and then come back. Now, by simply pushing a few buttons, everything is there and everything is fine. So it's easy for us again when we stay in the connected societies that we live, like Sainton and all of those places, and we connected all the time, we forget how important these things are. Indeed. And the life-changing aspects it brings to everybody.
Yeah. And that's the reality. I mean, Marius, sorry, we're running into time problems, even though I could talk to you all day, because this is it's a topic I'm very passionate about. It is about changing people's lives, whether we talk about access to healthcare, access to money, access to e-agriculture, access to banking, money, education. There is so much that is out there. But, you know, my worry is when we speak to something like our Minister of Communication, I mean, just as a one example, you know, I'm asking questions about 6G, which the world is already preparing for. We still don't have 5G properly, and we're still on analog, never mind digital. You know, these are things that worry us, is that we are lagging behind, and we may have the plans and the talk shops like this happening, but the implementation is my worry. So let me get that final word from you. You know, we need to speed up this process. Do you speak to government to tell them, and are they aware of how fast they need to act?
Absolutely. That is basically the most important aspect of my job and my department is we partner, we speak to government organizations, to regulators. And again, because we are the owners of the technologies, we are the developers, we are the patent holders, we know what's going to happen in future. So we come alongside and we guide them and we assist them to formulate the relevant plans. But one of the challenges we definitely have on the continent is not as much in writing the white papers and putting it out there. Yes, we need to push them to do that as quick as possible, but like you rightfully touched on, the execution side. African governments need to realize that we are playing with the future of our people and the youth. The youth is hungry. The youth has grown up in a world where the internet existed. I just recently did a 5G master class at one of the universities, and when I look at the youth and the questions they ask, you can see that hunger in them, that entrepreneurship that they've got. It's something that we never grew up with, and they're ready to go, but government has a very important role to play in all of that to make it happen.
Amazing. Marius, you've made me hungry. You really have. It's just it's huge, and if it's changing, and careers are changing, opportunities are changing, lawyers, accountants, all of these kind of things. There are other opportunities out there, and we need to open up and look at those opportunities. Marius, thank you for talking to us. Enjoy today. Enjoy it. I know there's going to be a lot discussed here, and SABC, of course, keeping you very much so updated with everything that's going on. We'll take the Minister's address live. I think that'll be just after 9 o'clock. But this is where I wrap it for Morning Live. And of course, stay tuned to the agenda. They will keep you updated with what happens here in the next couple of hours.